innovative financial education products through a virtuous approach in order to disrupt the cycle of poverty. We provide affordable college planning solutions through our Financial Freedom web application and program, youth financial education and entrepreneurship training through our My Own Business Challenge curriculum and program, and group youth programs that teach entrepreneurship and financial education. 10 cents of every dollar earned is reinvested into the community saved through the Youth College Scholarships. For more information, please go to www.youthfulsavings.com. Email at info@youthfulsavings.com or call 646-504-7164. The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to We Are the People with Tracy Marks and Jorge Estamba, who ask you to know what's happening with your student loan. Tracy and Jorge keep a deep look at student loans in this country and the industries that surround it. Every week, We Are the People will bring you new insight into the corporate welfare industry, such as bailouts, and they connect with student loans. The show will highlight on your constitutional rights and how the current system is built to infringe upon them. Join the conversation by visiting our website chat room at wearethepeople.tv. Or call the show at 888-565-1470 and let us hear from you. And now, let's tune in to Tracy and Jorge for this week's discussion.
And we're back. Thank you for joining in. And we have Rick here again instead of Jorge. He's off in Panama or some such place. I can't keep track of that man.
He does move around quite a bit.
Yeah, he's moving on. So anyway, as I told you, we're going to talk about Sallie Mae today. And the reason we're going to talk about Sallie Mae is, well, I'm mad at Sallie Mae for one reason, but actually I think there's some very important factors that the people need to know, that the taxpayers need to know, that the students need to know. You know, God is good, because I've been trying to put this together, which is really hard. As you know, I am on Section 8. I fund this show, but it's not out of my pocket. It's out of other people's. And what was my point going there? Oh, I don't have a computer. So, and half the time my phone's burned out. So we've got, you know, I got a lot of work to do. It's hard without these resources. However, I am determined to make a difference here somehow. The show's either going to make it and we're going to do something with it, or there's going to be an opportunity that opens up because of it. But that being said, today's focus is on Sallie Mae, and the problem that we have now is that Sallie Mae has split it. It's got another company that it's going hand in hand with, and that's Navient. If any of you have student loans, you probably got, well, I know you got it in the mail because I got mine, and it says, oh, we're now with them, and they're going to be, you know, so they've separated it out. Basically what has happened is Sallie Mae is now a bank. Okay, Navient, you know, we always hear about all the different things that happen with Sallie Mae, but the company Navient is actually, I hope I'm saying that right, it's Navient, Navient Corp. They've been there all along, hand in hand with Sallie Mae, and actually a lot of the investigation is actually about them. Now what upsets me is, okay, this is really great, because I was trying to piece this all together through separate articles, but today the Huffington Post published an article called Former Sallie Mae Unit Up for Lucrative Education Department Contract. Now some of you may have heard about this. Some of you, a lot of people haven't actually. A lot of people I talked to personally have not heard it. So go to the politics section in Huffington Post after you hear this show, and please read this article. It is long. I'm going to read it to you. I normally wouldn't sit here and read something this long, but it has everything that I was trying to put together. And seeing that I don't have a teleprompter, I can't pretend like I'm saying this all myself.
I think it's important. I think it's an important article. It gives a lot of background, and people need to hear it. And please, at the end of the show, go find it and read it.
Absolutely. So Also, when you look into Sallie Mae and who's on the board and who's on the board with Navient, you will find a conglomeration of bankers, and they've got all these different companies that they've dealt with in one way or another that are on their board members. It's just wrong what's going on here. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start this article. Okay, the U.S. Department of Education is seriously considering granting a potentially billion-dollar, decade-long contract to a former unit of Sallie Mae, that would be Navient, the student loan company. The Justice Department last month accused of cheating U.S. soldiers. Now, as you remember, that was a $97 million settlement. Actually hasn't been paid out yet. There's like 60,000 soldiers, okay? In a previously unreported move, the department said May 30th that Navient Corp., the nation's largest student loan company, was one of the 4 finalists for a new contract to run its system for originating and dispersing new federal student loans and grants and keeping track of the existing ones. Well, they've got tons of existing ones. Okay, the current contract held by Accenture, that's Accenture LLP, was valued at $880 million as of May 19th, according to the Education Department. Now, we're going to have to do a show on the Education Department, too. If Navient wins this contract, it would have a role in originating new federal loans for borrowers, keeping track of their debts, collecting monthly payments on their loans, and chasing after them if they default. In other words, a borrower's entire interaction with the Education Department, from the moment she takes out a loan to the day she pays it off, could solely be through Navient. It's pretty scary. The May 30th announcement made in federal contracting documents follows a May 13th settlement between Navient and the Justice Department and the Federal Deposit Insurance Corp., a federal bank regulator. In the settlement, actually the settlement was originally for $139. In the settlement, government authorities accused Navient and SLM Corp., or Sallie Mae, of intentionally overcharging troops on their federal student loans and willfully obtaining default judgments against service members over an 8-year period, in violation of the Service Members Civil Relief Act. The FDIC alleged the companies illegally told troops they had to be deployed to receive entitled benefits and improperly required them to meet other tests. It's possible that up to 60,000 troops were harmed, authorities say. Neither company admitted or denied wrongdoing, of course not, though Navient's chief executive, John Raimondi, who was the CEO of Sallie Mae until this split, apologized in a statement for processing errors. Navient spun off from Sallie Mae on May 1st, taking the company's loan servicing and collections business. Sallie Mae is now a bank. Navient's selection as a finalist for the lucrative loan origination contract follows a series of moves by the Education Department that raise doubts about its commitment to police the company and its other contractors amid mounting evidence suggested wrongdoing. The selection also highlights Navient's close relationship with the department, for which it collects payments on loans and chases borrowers who default. Navient also sometimes coordinates with the department when responding to congressional inquiries. At the time of the May 13th settlement, Education Secretary Arne Duncan vowed to hold Navient accountable and replied that every option is on the table. When asked whether the company would keep its other well-paying Education Department contracts to interact with borrowers and collect their payments on federal student loans. The company has 4 servicing contracts valued at a combined $126 billion. Okay? That's a lot of money. Let's talk about that for a minute. Okay, they have just been accused, and they had to make a settlement of now $97 billion.
This is more than just an accusation.
Yeah.
This is proven wrongdoing, proven fraud, just in one situation with the military student loans.
Okay.
We haven't even looked at the private student loans that they hold. We haven't even looked at, the regular students.
And you know what? None of that counts because they've serviced their contracts correctly. So the fact that they're ripping people off doesn't really matter. It's okay.
No,
What kind of
they-
message does that send? So last week in a discussion about Sallie Mae during the Senate Banking Committee hearing, Senator Jack Reed said he would urge Defense Secretary Chuck Hagel to consider placing companies that mistreat service members on a sort of off-limits list that would act as a warning to troops to avoid doing business with these companies. Now, come on, this is the information age. There's so much out there. Really? Do you think everybody's going to see that? I'm still finding stuff I don't know about it every single day, with or without a computer. So Duncan directed the Office of Federal Student Aid, the department unit that's supposed to supervise Navient, to further investigate after the May 13th settlement, a move that industry executives took as a signal that Duncan wasn't satisfied with the Justice Department's findings. According to congressional aides, the department has told Capitol Hill that its review of Navient should take about 4 months. Depending on what the federal student aid discovers, it may examine other local servicers as well. The findings are expected in mid-September, about a month after the department typically determines how many new loans each of its 4 main servicers will receive for the upcoming academic year. Student advocates and consumer groups said Navient's selection as a finalist for the new contract calls into question federal student aid's investigation into the company. I think that's a fair statement. I would say that calls into question.
At a minimum. I mean, these 2 companies have been proven to be taking fraudulent action.
And it's not just those 2. I mean, this article's just dealing with them, but I mean, there's tons of stuff on Sallie Mae. I mean, and not just here. The HuffPost just happened to put together an article that had everything else I was trying to do my notes with, so, Anyway, Deanna Loonan, director of the National Consumer Law Center's Student Loan Borrower Assistant Project, is among experts who have previously criticized FSA oversight as inadequate. She said the pending FSA investigation is too little too late. I'd say I agree with that. It's incomprehensible that the Education Department keeps Navient in the running after finding all these problems at the company, Loonan says. It's an indication that they don't seem to be taking these violations seriously. Chris Hicks, an organizer who leads the Debt-Free Future campaign for Jobs with Justice, a Washington-based nonprofit that is among the organizations that have called on Duncan to suspend the department's current loan servicing contract with Sallie Mae, said the government's decision to keep working with the companies suggests that it isn't serious about holding them accountable. And nobody's been held accountable. I mean, hey, Mr. Lord got to build a golf course with the money they brought. Okay, the Department of Education's actions show how tone-deaf they are to what's going on around them, Hicks said. As tens of thousands service members wait to be refunded money, around $60,000, they were allegedly overcharged by Sallie Mae. How can they say allegedly when they've already said they did it?
It's been proven.
I know, so why allegedly? How do
They
they
paid
get?
a fine for it.
Yeah, I get that part. I don't get why they can say allegedly.
They're claiming no responsibility, and yet the facts are there.
Okay, but the facts are there, so allegedly should not even be allowed in this one.
No,
Anyway, the
no,
Education Department has been talking about rewarding Sallie Mae for ripping everybody off, it doesn't say that in the article, with an even larger contract that requires them to work with millions more students. That's pretty scary. Sarah Lewis, senior lead researcher for the policy at the AFL-CIO, the nation's largest labor federation, said the department's decision to select Navient as a finalist for the loan origination contract makes it clear the department views the company as too big to fail. The AFL-CIO has called on Duncan to terminate the company's loan servicing contract, which is exactly what we're here to talk to you about today. It's really discouraging and upsetting, Lewis says. added. Patricia Christel, a Navient spokeswoman, declined to comment. There's 2 other people there from the Department of Education representatives that don't return messages when they seek comment. So in addition to that potential new business for Navient, Education Department officials have quietly told members of Congress and student advocates over the last few weeks that the that the department plans to renew Navient's primary contract to collect payments on federal student loans. According to congressional aides, the student advocates, the contract expires this month. Okay, so in explaining their rationale for renewing the contract, the department officials have said they fear that borrowers would be inconvenienced if their loans were transferred from Navient to another company. I don't know about you, I want them to transfer mine. I don't care how long it takes. Get me away from these people.
I'd rather have the inconvenience than the cheaters handling my account.
Absolutely. So, I mean, they found him guilty, but yet, well, I'll go on. It puts it much better this way. Anyway.
Something's going on there, and it's not right.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, obviously. So James Runcie, the Student Aid Unit Chief Operating Officer, okay, this is for the Department of Education, told the Senate in March that borrowers could face dislocation if the loans were transferred. Now, you're talking about 24+ million loans. So, yeah, it's going to be a mess, but anything less is going to be rewarding Sallie Mae for stealing from people. If I steal from somebody, they're going to put me in jail. Nobody goes to jail. Nobody's held accountable. Runcie also said that his agency hadn't found a wholesale violation of Sallie Mae in its contract, which is now held by Navient, that would lead to termination. The Justice Department's findings, the result of an investigation spanning more than a year, were announced 2 months later. The Education Department's contract with Sallie Mae, now held by Navient, requires it to be in compliance at all times with federal consumer protection statutes, such as the Service Members Law. Violating the Service Member Law constitutes a breach of the contract. Federal Student Aid is doing a thorough investigation, and the findings of that examination will inform our arrangement with Sallie Mae going forward, Knowles said in an emailed statement about the planned contract renewal. If the FSA were to decide to end Sallie Mae's contract, some sort of extension would be necessary, of course it would, to smoothly transfer the millions of loans the company handles to other servicers. But the department effectively can cancel those contracts at any time, Knowles said. They're renewing the contract and then they're doing the exhaustive review. Sounds crazy, huh? But that's what they're doing.
I'm getting exhausted with their review.
Yeah, they're reviews that go nowhere. When student loan servicers see that enforcement is inadequate or irregular or weak, it certainly does not drive them to do better things, Senator Brown said from Ohio last week. That's the case when it comes to the history of finance. When regulators are not doing their job, abuses proliferate. If we don't do enforcement right now, abuses will grow. And that is the big deal here, folks. They're letting them, they're rewarding them. And this new contract, I mean, they usually, okay, they're the worst. They do things the worst. They're, always in trouble, Sallie Mae. So they only got 18% of these contracts last year. This year, it's going to be more like 24. Okay? So, yeah, they released the estimate, and they think that it could be up to 25% of all new Education Department student loans allocated to the 4 select servicers. Last year, the company received 18%. Okay, the department determines new loan allocations by examining a number of servicer borrowers in default, as well as by surveying schools, borrowers, and its own employees. Navient has the fewest share of borrowers in default, according to the Education Department data. The company has consistently ranked ahead of the 3 major competitors when it comes to the share of borrowers in default. Wow. Okay. So as long as you keep your numbers straight in one place, you can just manipulate them and do whatever you want in another, because it's not the same thing. So by the time the law actually catches up with you, these people are gone.
The Department of Education is participating in fraud.
Yeah, they are, and they haven't done their job in at least 20 years, or this wouldn't be happening right now. Okay, over the last 3 years, the allocation figures have been made public in mid-August. This year's numbers could come before the FSA completes its investigation of Navient. Well, isn't that just convenient? That makes me very uncomfortable, said Lewis of the AFL-CIO. I'm very interested to see what extent of new loans will be allocated to Navient. It's a big question. Okay, so some Obama administration officials are spooked by the involvement of the prominent labor group. Of course, they don't want to say anything bad about Arne Duncan either.
Protecting a crony, no matter how bad a job he does.
Yeah, so, you know, the prominent labor group enjoys close ties with the White House, according to advocates for student borrowers in touch with the White House officials and the Education Department. The officials are worried that ongoing criticism of Duncan and his department could risk hurting Democrats in the upcoming November election. I don't know if I'm going to get to the rest of the article, because see right there. Okay, it shouldn't matter. First of all, I don't think we should be independents or Democrats or Republicans. I think they should have a party where they, you know, they can run on those platforms. We are the people. We have to come together at some time. And okay, Arne Duncan obviously is a slouch, but yet we can't say that because it's going to hurt our party. You know, this is why Democrats are looked at as cowards. You know, I just... It doesn't matter. We have to get away from I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat or an independent, and we have to start looking at some core things that are happening, and we have to figure out a way to come together, because this is only going to get worse. It's going to get worse for our economy. It's going to get worse for the students. It's going to get worse for everyone. We have got to get away from that. So in December, you know, they told Elizabeth Warren that it had been declined to levy any fines against the company, even though it had secretly determined that Sallie Mae over the previous 10 years had harmed borrowers, incorrectly billed the department, and experienced other servicing failures. The department dismissed the various findings as compliance issues in its letter. Okay, so they fire a few people. It's usually the low man on the totem pole that said something wrong, but they were trained to do that. But yeah, you know, they were trained. Okay, and if they weren't trained, then it's their lack of training, and they deserve it anyway.
Well, they're complicit. They're involved. They profit from it. They benefit from it.
The company, not the person that's getting axed for saying the wrong thing. In March, the department worked with Sallie Mae to provide some answers to a detailed list of questions Warren had about the quality of the company's servicing of federal student loans. Chris Green, an Education Department spokesman, noted Sallie Mae answered some of Warren's questions. The only data is provided with the Education Department's blessings. The share of borrowers with federal direct loans postponing their payments through the use of forbearance and share repaying their debts using income-linked repayment plans. Both scored well above the national average. What are we doing on time anyway? We've got 3 minutes. I haven't even got through the article, but what I want you to go away with is, okay, you can look this stuff up, and not only that, you have Boehner, Fox and Klein, who are taking big donations from Sallie Mae and Sallie Mae affiliates. The problem is bad. Okay, and we have to come together and we have to do something. Rick is putting together a petition. We're going to put it up on MoveOn. And is it up? Do you have a title for it?
Let's get back to it. End all contracts with Sallie Mae and Navient.
Now, if I can. So please, go to MoveOn.org. We're going to try to put this out on a couple of the other petition sites. We really need you to work on stopping Sallie Mae. All right, so next week, Alan West is supposed to be in.
Alan West is supposed to be in. Great guest. Going to talk about how government works or doesn't work for us.
I'd like to see him get behind getting rid of Sallie Mae here.
And we're going to hopefully get
his boys.
to talk about student loan issues in Sallie Mae.
Yeah, we're hoping. Anyway, join us next week, and we'll continue this conversation. Thank you for
You have
joining
been
us.
listening to We Are the People. Special advocates Tracy Marks and Jorge Estamba, who every week bring to the light the needs and changes in our current system. Tune in every Monday night at 7 p.m. on wearethepeople.tv and participate in the conversation in the chat room or call 888-565-1470. Tune in next Monday for more information and facts. And Tracy and Jorge remind you to stay aware of your surroundings and challenges at all times. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsor, Innovative Financial